Ziad Asali is president and founder of the American Task Force on Palestine. He joins me live from Washington. Thanks so much for joining us. The U.S. officials are choosing a very clear decision to keep their criticism in the public venue. What do you read into that?
Yeah, I think beyond the immediate insult and affront that the Israelis gratuitously offered Mr. Biden and hence changed the politics of the equation, there is a substantive issue of Jerusalem and negotiations. Now, the United States has clearly declared its national interest in establishing a two-state solution, and for the past several months it has invested so much effort across the region in order to get the two parties back to negotiate. And what the Israelis have done is that they have hurt this very serious effort at resuming negotiations, and by trying to take Jerusalem pretty much out of the equation of negotiations by declaring this 1,600 unit in Jerusalem at this time. That is clearly a non-starter.
All right, so you see this perhaps as an attempt to keep East Jerusalem clearly inside the frame of negotiations. The U.S. official, Secretary of State, is calling for Netanyahu to repair relations. Other officials saying Israel must take specific steps. What is the U.S. asking Israel to do?
Of course, it is ambiguous, as everybody knows. The American demand on Israel is to come up with something serious to the negotiating table. The Palestinians haven't quite rejected 100% the idea of going back, except if the Israelis reverse that decision. So there is a certain ambiguity. And the third ambiguity is that Mr. Netanyahu took the blame and expressed sorrow about the timing, but not quite about the substance. Now, these three positions have to be renegotiated and renegotiated quickly on everybody's part if we are to go back to a serious negotiations. This has the potential, this incident, which started perhaps could have been a tempest in a teacup, now is developing into a crisis, and it may have strategic significant impact on the Israeli-American relations if we do not find a way to resolve these interlocking issues.
Let's take the last ambiguity that you mentioned there. Can the Israeli Prime Minister reverse his decision? Some say he would be having to choose between U.S. support and the support of his coalition partners. Well, part of this is, of course, the politics of Israel. Israel has managed to have a decision-making with dysfunctional political system, really. Now, the issue of Jerusalem is much too important not to be discussed strategically inside Israel, and a decision has to be made. If the Israelis want to have a two-state solution for their own interest, for their own security, for their own future acceptance in the region, they cannot take Jerusalem out of that equation. So this has to be a serious political issue of discourse that the Israelis must answer, as they either stick with the present right-wing coalition, which clearly is giving an answer no, or a change in the coalition, which Netanyahu can still very easily lead if he sheds some of the opposing forces within his present coalition. All right, Ziad Asali from the American Task Force on Palestine. Thanks for talking to us.